Alright, so greetings guys. We're going to continue where we left off, and I'm going to try changing up the format a little bit. Firstly, I want to apologize. I just took a listen to some of the other tutorials, and it seems like I had the mic a little too close because you can hear breathing sounds, which is probably a little freaky. It probably sounds like I'm right behind you. So my apologies to begin with. And also, I will try to rectify that. I'll try speaking up a little louder as well, so it records fairly strong. And I'll try to pay attention to all that kind of stuff. And the other thing I also noticed was that it can be a little slow in regards to sometimes there are little bits of gaps and pauses, and those pauses are probably generally me trying to think of a solution or some sort of example that would best illustrate what we're trying to achieve. Because I'm sort of making up these examples on the fly, and if the videos are probably a little fast-paced anyway and there's a lot of complex concepts, then it probably works out to your advantage. There are pauses, and it allows you that time to think about things. And the other thing I'm going to try doing is telling you what the goal of our session is as well. The goal for this tutorial is there's actually a lot of stuff I want to probably get done. This one's going to be pretty action-packed. First thing is that it's going to be, I guess I'll categorize it as a basic platformer with enemies in camera. What that means is we're also going to try throwing in pause controls, which will allow me to show you the some of the functionality I was hinting to probably earlier about why we want to use an update loop and just a single add event listener as opposed to having multiple add event listeners in each of the game objects, and some other things. We're also going to extend functionality to our key class. I'm going to show you how to create documentation as well for the key class. That one may be a little bit more useful as well. I don't generally create documentation because I know how to read my own code. But for you, or if you're working in a larger team, or even for yourself as a reference, it's good practice to have. You should definitely go over create documentation explanations if you're unsure why things work, or you want to remember why things work a specific way. Documentation is definitely good, and it's a very, very powerful learning tool. It also means you can work in larger team environments. What other stuff do we have? We're going to learn some more player stuff. We're going to do some base platformer code, jumping, maybe single-sided platforms, and maybe death. Simple AI for the enemies, so that means we're creating enemies as well. Levels, I was going to consider doing loading, but I don't think we're going to do that until the next session. All we're probably going to do is camera code. What this essentially means, though, is that everything we've done so far is probably going to change up very rapidly. We've got a whole bunch of tiles, so let's move those out of the way. We're going to make this in a format of a platformer, which means we're going to start killing things as we see them fit. To move things around as well. And we're going to try turning this into a platformer. It's going to be a little bit of fun. So this, I think, level layout may work a little bit better, be a little bit more conducive for something like a platformer. Yeah, it's probably going to be it. A lot more jumping. All right. So a lot more jumping and all the other kind of stuff. The level's been changed to kind of mitigate that, and all the code's still the same, so just top-down. This could work as a top-down level too. It's not too bad. But it's also spaced off probably well enough so that we can get the jumping in. So let's see what we got going. First off is pausing. So how pausing is going to kind of work. And as we start stepping away from the main script, there's one more thing we're going to start adding. We're going to start looking at breaking things down into levels, what we call levels. Yeah, and it should just extend something like... It can either be a sprite or a movie clip. I think I'm gonna go with sprite. I don't expect our levels to really animate, because that may break a lot of code. Doesn't really matter. It's essentially the same. So final public constructor function, sure. Now, what do we want to do inside of a level? Well, the first thing we want to do is I want to start moving away from this kind of update loop and making it internal. So what it kind of means is we're going to move some of our stuff out from main. We're going to take our add event listener, and that's it. The key only has to be initialized once, so we'll do that in main because it's a one-off. But all the level stuff seems like it's probably a good idea to have here. And that's that. So that's game object list length. We'll go through our items, and if our level was to die, then we'd remove all that kind of stuff. Alternatively, our main's going to be in charge of managing our levels so that we don't have two of them running at any point in time. And what we could even do is, if we wanted to, we could even step away and have this update not have internal updates like like we've been having so far. We can still have the main run our update, but on level. So I'll actually show you how that kind of works. Maybe we'll set that up. It wasn't part of my plan, but no, I'm not gonna set that up now. I'll show you that later when it becomes pertinent. Right now, it's not pertinent. So here we go. The first thing we want to be able to do is we want to be able to pause our game. And so since our game exists over here, we want to create a variable called var pause, and this is the only place where it kind of like has its loop. Private var pause. Boolean, and it's going to start off with false. Obviously, we don't have to really specify it because any Boolean's default value is false. What else we got? So what we want to say is we want to kill our code when we pause. And how we're going to do that is we're going to say, well, if we're pausing, then do stuff, or alternatively, if we're not pausing, run everything else. Now this works out all right, but structurally it's kind of a little weak. You have to remember what's in what kind of brackets and what's going on where. So what I like to do is, if I'm pausing, kill the function. How would you kill a function? How would you kill a function if you're inside of it and you haven't gone to the end? So how do you end it early? You could do something like this. You could return and that would kill your function. And this, so what it will do is, if it hits the pause, if pause is true, pause is equal to true, it'll return. Now, as soon as you return in a function, so if we take a look at our game object, you may have been asking this to yourself, well, how does the for loop end? You know, I'm going to keep on looping. What if I find multiple items? Does it return multiple items? No, it doesn't. It's kind of weird I didn't really explain it, but what it does is it just terminates. As soon as it hits that return, it says terminate at this line, and then the rest of the for loop just falls away. Now you can do this anywhere, and you can do this with any function. Now this is a function that returns something. Alright, so it has to be some sort of object. Now inside of our level, kill display object. I'm going to kill untitled. We can just return, and that's it. Don't have to put any other parameter, because we're not actually returning a value. And if we were to return a value, it may not turn out too well for us, because it says it returns void, which means it can't actually return a value. But this is also really, really cool. So if we say it's paused, then kill all our update logic. But how are we going to know it's paused? So we can do a couple things. Firstly, how do we change it to pause? And this is where our handy dandy key class comes in. Is key pressed? What key do we want? Keyboard dot p. P is a good letter for pausing. So if key is pressed and keyboard dot p is our button, we're just going to assign that to a variable, and we're going to say, well, pause is equal to not pause. And this is a one line to turn pausing true or false. It's kind of cool. So if pausing is true, it turns it to false. If it's false, it turns it to true. It's just opposite as to what it is. And what you can also do is extend this out a little bit. And you could say, not only do we want to pause it, we also want to change the transparency of it. So we're going to say anything that we are contained within is alpha is going to be modified. And how we're going to do this, we're going to use another ternary. So if you remember ternaries from last time, ternaries look something like, do I have it in here somewhere? I don't remember where I put it. Which is fair. Oh, here it is, right? So condition, if it's true, if it's false. And the one I used inside of the move by function was actually just for figuring out which direction we have to head in, and then based off the precision, we can, move by a small amount. What we're going to do here is we're going to use a ternary to say if we're paused is true, then set it to 0.5. I'll set it to 1. Yeah, that makes sense. Here's the other thing, though. Level, we're not actually using level anywhere, which is fine. Actually, let's make level a movie clip. I've decided against making it a sprite. The reason being is because we actually want to use it inside of our world. So if it was a sprite, it might get a little iffy, fighting with flash kind of stuff, but... cancel. I don't know what I hit. Alright. So I'm going to say new folder. We're going to start organizing our stuff. We're going to call these things objects. We could even organize it a little bit more, but whatever. And we're going to create a folder called levels. And inside of our level, we're going to create a level 1. And level 1 is going to extend our engine dot level. So engine dot level definition for this class was found at. That's very good. If there are incessant pausings this time around, it's probably due to people coming in and out of the room. It's a little distracting, and it always makes me turn my head. Yes, lots of things going on today, so I apologize. So perfect, engine.level. And it's only 2:52 in the afternoon. Let's see how much we get done. And what am I going to do? I actually just want to dump everything inside of my world into my level, based in place. And if I were to drag this into my screen, I can set it to 0, 0. Perfect. And then we can just go inside this level and drag things wherever we want it to be. And I know this is a bit of a step, a roundabout step. Why do we have to do this? We don't really, but, because it's a container, we get more control over what's going on. And it's only going to be useful for later on when we're trying to make things modular. So why not step in the right direction right now? So we hit enter. Oops. Base class is considered final. Yes, that was my mistake. I should have made it final. Any base class that is final means that nothing else can inherit from it. Now, that was a silly mistake. I should have realized that immediately that was wrong. because we need, obviously level has other levels. Level base is just the functionality. We don't actually create our own custom stuff, not yet anyway, but we may. For right now, it's not important to do that kind of stuff. So everything works the same way. Now, if I hold the P button, you can see that it looks like a seizure is going on. It's going on and off, and that's because no matter how fast I can hit it, you can't really get it in the time span of a single frame. It does work though, so if I try hitting, WASD, it's not doing anything. But holding down the P button doesn't quite work. And the reason being is we don't want it to be when our key is pressed to toggle it every single frame, because our key is pressed usually over multiple frames. Like, we're not fast enough to hit 88 milliseconds or something. I think it's 80 milliseconds, something like that. But we have to be super fast to be able to interact with it. That's not the point. Really, what we want to really interact with it is during a state of when we first press it down. When we first press it, we want to pause the game. And we have to repress the button to unpause, or toggle, whatever that means. Now this takes us back to what we did last time, and it means that our class isn't quite done yet. We have an is key pressed, but we also need other functions. We need to know whether or not our static public function, or whether or not our is key, if our key is down, and that's going to be same kind of thing. Returns whether or not it's down. And is key released. Now, this is where documentation comes in handy. When you write your own documentation or using other people's documentation, what is the difference between is key down and is key released? We have no idea. But we have to define what that difference is. So we're going to say, and if you do this inside of Flash Develop, you can say // and it has two options that come up immediately. And this is for autocomplete. You can either select method details or empty, and if you select method details, it does something fantastic. You can give a description over here and tell what the parameters are. So key code, we can define it as the keyboard key code and for a description we could say returns true when the key is pressed is first pressed. There we go. Good. So what do we need? What's the difference between these two? Well, this one is going to return true when the key is held down. And it's actually a little bit of humor if you see that this one uses press and the other one uses down, and they're describing different function names. But you know what, it works. It works, and that's important. So, and I'll show you what also it does. It also does something like this. So if we go into level and we say if key is key down, we can see that we have our own custom description. It actually tells us everything we need to know. And both the pressed and the down have their own descriptions, the custom descriptions we entered, and the other one just shows, what the function call, what it takes in, how it kind of works. This is super useful. This is our documentation. And as we're typing things up, we don't have to go back to the actual code to see what it's doing. We just read our documentation, and it'll tell us. This is how it works. I may document a couple other classes just for the fun of it. Well, there really is no reason for me. You guys should document all your classes. Do it. I recommend it. If you don't understand, or you do understand, prove it by documenting it. For me, it's just going to take a ton of time, so it doesn't really make sense to document it for you guys. And anyway, you probably want to come up with your own documentation and start getting used to certain conventions and standards. So which one do we want? We want the is key down. Now if we take a look at the key, we don't have any code in there yet, so why don't you put some code in there? This is your chance to get it working. You can give your best effort at making it work, and if you were able to get it work, congrats, good job. If you weren't, I'm going to show you the process. Now, because we have another state, or two other states, one array isn't quite enough. We actually need another array of keys update list. That's good. And how does this one work? So, let's actually comment this one out. The way we're currently using the keys down list is you can right click on the key down. I'm actually going to refactor it to cancel. I'm going to copy it first, replace it in the comment one. That's the one we're going to target. But the way we're using keys down right now is the way we want to use the keys updated. Or update list. I don't remember what I called it. Update list. Perfect. And that's essentially it. Every time we hit a key down or key up, we right click. That was right click and refactor. It changed it all the references, and you can use it for any. Sorry, that's just a tangent. You can use it anywhere in your code, essentially. If you want to change the way, I don't obviously want to do it, but if you want to change the way the collide function or what the collide function was called, you could right click on it and rename it. It'll find every other file that it's referenced in and it'll rectify. But in our case, so if you haven't seen it before, that's what it was. Most other coding tools and environments have something like that. And we're going to use our keys down list. Now, a key down list will indicate whether or not something has occurred. And how we rectify the differences. So we have to update our list, and anything that goes from our everything will go from our update list to our down list. So how do we want to do this? We want to add an event listener. Right. We're going to add an event listener to our stage. Another event listener, because that's the only thing we have reference to. And we're going to call it on the exit frame. So after everything has finished executing in our code, we are going to say on key on frame exit. We're going to run our update code. And what's our update code? Our update code is to go for each var for each var of ID. And this is a for each loop, if you haven't seen it yet. I don't know if it's going to work, but it's worth a shot. I may have to fiddle with it a little bit, but usually what it works is, what it does is it returns a key for each in. There's also a for in. Actually, we need a for in loop, sorry. They both work relatively the same way. One returns values. If I used a for each, it'll actually return booleans into my integer. What I really need is I need the locations. And so if we do a for in my keys update list, it'll give every object that has a value in it. And what it'll do is we'll say in our down list, so if it has a value, doesn't matter where it is, we're going to say in our keys down list at the same location, set it to be equal to the original value, the one that has been updated this frame. And if it doesn't, then and then once we're done doing that, we want to make sure that it doesn't update again. So we're going to delete it. Delete the original value reference. Delete the the key reference. So the location at ID is now null, effectively, or undefined. Whatever it is, as if it had been unset. This delete keyword only works on things like vectors and arrays and dictionaries. Anything that's you're accessing direct locations, you can't actually use it for your own custom classes. It won't work the same way. You don't have control over that. But that's going to be all right. What we're also going to do is we're going to say keys down list. So for this condition, it's not quite the same. Our key is considered down if the update list at that key code location that we're requesting is true. But we don't want it to trigger every frame. Oh, also, by the way, this is now the key down list right here. So, but we don't want it to trigger every frame, right? Like it will if we hold our key down. So we also have to have another condition, and the one we're targeting in the key down list is false. Because if it's false, that means it hasn't been set. But if it's true, that means it has been set. And so if it's true, then it's like it's considered pressed. Now, you can try doing the release key yourself. This is all you really need for it. It's the same kind of logic. If you got it, good job. If you didn't, this is how you kind of do it. What you want to look for in the release key is that it's false, the update list is false, but the key down list is true. And this is a subtle nuance because last frame it was down, this frame it isn't, and that's when it'll evaluate to true. And with this little nuance, if we run our code again inside of our level, if we run our code again and we hit P, it'll pause our world. Or did it? I think I broke something. Let's see. Yeah, it's this for and loop. I knew it. Need some sort of object. It's actually really a key. So make all these things keys. I don't know why. It's a key in an index, or it's a key in an array. It's like a hash table if you think about it. But that's essentially how we're using it. If we hit P, and I'm holding it down right now, it just toggles it. So I just released it. It still doesn't do anything. I hit it again. It toggles it off. So we can toggle our states now just by holding P. And we don't have to do anything really fancy. And it's really kind of cool. The game pauses. You can test it out. You see I can't move. But here's the other thing. If we go into our player, we want to change the way he works. He has a speed. That's great. But he's also going to have something called jump. Jump is going to be his, the velocity in the air. So speed will be horizontal, and jump will be vertical. And we'll say that he heads up, and when he jumps, he heads in negative 15 pixels per second. I don't know. Pixels per frame. And that's what he'll move. He'll move at 5 pixels horizontally, and the jump state, he'll just jump up. Another Boolean we're going to need, or another variable we're going to need, is a Boolean. And that is to tell whether or not we have jump as jumped. You can also alternatively try getting this working on your own. And give it a try. I'll show you how it works. So if you've given it a try, this is kind of how it works. All the stuff's the same for the X, but our Y goes completely haywire. We now lose our S because we don't go down when we hit S. We don't do anything when we hit S. What we will do when we hit W is we're going to go we're going to add a jump to it. Now, we also have this Boolean that we have to toggle, and the other thing if we run it, there is one more thing we're missing. There's a couple more things we're missing. Firstly, we don't go down. Alright, so even if I jump, you just kind of go up to the roof like I'm floating. There's nothing I can quite do. Also, you'll notice if I'm holding left or right, it's doing fun things. That's also because we're normalizing, which we no longer need because this is a what are we? Side-scrolling. Yeah. And I also move much faster. Also, there's nothing decreasing my velocity. So how are we going to fix that? Well, firstly, let's add in gravity. Var gravity is of type number. And we're going to set gravity to 1. 1 in the positive. If negative is up, then positive is down. That's because if we take a look at our screen, this is 0 by 0, 800 by 600. So that's what it's based off of. That's our grid space. And so anything down is in the positive direction, anything up is in the negative. And so what do we want to do with gravity? We want to say that every frame, no matter what happens, set velocity dot y to plus equal gravity. That wasn't too bad. Except when you jump, you go super high, and then you come down super hard. So there's a couple things we're still missing, of course. First is that we shouldn't be able to, when we've jumped, we shouldn't be able to jump again. So set we've jumped to true. Also, we don't want to be able to jump if it is true. So if it's false, if we haven't jumped, then allow us to jump. But there is one more bug that you may notice if you just run it and you watch. I'm not going to hit any buttons, but just watch. At some point, I just go right through my floor, and the question is why. You should be able to logically figure it out. But what's essentially happening is our player is moving more than a block's tile. And as soon as he starts moving more than a block's tile with collision, he just teleports through the other side. We don't have anything to really stop him because our collision doesn't sweep. But what we do have is our onCollide y function. So if we override our onCollide y, I'm taking out the super because we don't actually use it for anything. If we collide with anything in our moveBy function, you know what we should do? Set our velocity to be equal to 0. It's not too bad. So now we can jump. Move left or right, and we can jump. We can only jump once. If I hit the W key, it doesn't work again. What do you have to do to get it working? We have to toggle back our has jumped to be equal to false. Now every time we hit, we can jump again. And here's another neat little trick. If I hold W, the way this is currently designed, I continually jump. And you may also notice that I can stick to the bottom side of platforms. So this is like a climbing mechanic. It's a really cheap climbing mechanic, actually. I didn't think about that. Yeah, it's not very expensive. But let's say you don't want him to be able to climb under the underside of things. I mean, I think it's like a ninja. But if you guys don't want ninja reflexes, I can't stop you. Yeah, I like ninja stuff. It's not so bad, actually. But there's a logical error. So when do we want him to actually reset all his stats? We want him to reset all his stats when his velocity it's when his velocity is in, well, you can try figuring it out, but when his velocity is in the positive direction. So if it's greater than, if he's heading down, so it's in the positive direction. So if it's greater than 0, then we know he's falling. Similar to us adding gravity every frame. But anyway, just that one line, and he can no longer climb. I don't know, I think it's a pretty cool ability. It's a bug that's a feature. So I can hold it, but it's not going to do anything. All I'm going to do is jump. Right, and the other thing is I'm holding W, and every time I hold it, every time I hit the floor, I jump again. So you can hold the W and you can move throughout your level. Now if you don't want that and you actually want to require a jump press, you should already know how to do that. We've coded it in. It's the same thing we had to do for the pause. So give it a try. And if you were able to get it, good on you. If you weren't, then you want to take a look at is key down. And if you're unsure of how that works, you can open up your handy dandy tool until you returns true when the key is first pressed. And we only want to know when the key is first pressed. So every time we subsequently press W, we have to keep on pressing W for it to work. So I can hold W, which I'm doing right now, and it only jumps once. But if I release and hit it again, it jumps again. And that's exactly as you want it to work. You can do things to actually stop the player so he doesn't hug against the top like that. So I'm in a jumped state, so I kind of if you're trying this, try jumping at the bottom under one of these tiles and then sliding out from under. You'll see that you kind of like bunny hop or half bunny hop, because what's happening is your jump is being blocked, and then when you finally get out from being under it, it's being resumed. And so what you can do to fix that is you can take the velocity is equals 0 outside of that if statement, and when you jump now, it'll immediately reset it, and it just kills your jump. So if you're taking down your jump too early, then it stops you short, instead of allowing you to retain the extra air time. All different ways to maneuver, but actually I think this feels pretty good. Like, I can get up 3 tiles height. That's not bad. And I can collect everything I need to get to. Well, I can't bounce off of walls, but you get the gist. There may be one more thing we could probably add to make this a little bit more fun and interesting. That will probably have to... No, single-sided platformers. Yeah, I did mention we gotta take a look at that. So, single-sided platforms. This is going to be another object type. We're going to have lots of environments, hopefully, in the next session. This is to get us started. So we've got objects, and we probably should break this down a little bit further. We're going to say we're going to make something called environment, I think. That's a good thing to call it. We're going to make one called units. And these are all in the plural, so I'm going to make environments in the plural too. Environments, units, interactables. Interactables would be a good one. Why not? There's going to be lots of stuff going on here. Doubles. And so we're going to drag that down to the objects, and we're done. So units, we got a player. For environment, we've got... I don't even know why we still have the circle. We've got a wall. We can open these up. And for interactables, we've got a coin so far. So we've proved out the ability to do everything else. Coin, circle is actually going to die. Don't want to use it for anything. And everything's kind of looking all right. Got our level, we've got our coins, and we've got our player. Next element we're going to add is going to be something called... And let's duplicate the wall. Why not? I thought it didn't do so bad. And we're going to call it... Oh, and... yeah, we probably were getting a bug due to... I'm thinking we got a bug due to this stroke, so I actually want to kill our stroke. No stroking things. Yeah, we actually had to make our player a little smaller. He could actually work at 30 by 30, but because of the stroke, it actually killed the way things kind of work. But it doesn't really matter. We're going to duplicate this wall. I'm going to call this a single. This is a single-sided platform, and it's going to extend. I don't know what it's going to extend. We got to create something for it to extend. Whatever. You know what? Don't export for action script just yet. But we'll create a single, and let's make it gray or some other color so we know that it's a single-sided platform. Let's say that it's... I don't know. What color should we use? Single-sided platform. Brown a good color? I'm already using that for the enemies. We could use another blue. Maybe green. Green isn't a bad color. I like green. So for these ones in the middle here, let's make them... And let's actually... So let's go inside here. Let's actually make... Well, put the coins up here. and let's actually make them single-sided platforms instead. That's a little bit more fun, and you don't actually be as precise. The reason why we can't make everything single-sided platforms is because the walls, we just clip straight through the walls and could fall through our demise. That's probably a bad idea. Recommendation is just everything. You can make everything single-sided as long as you don't do that to your walls. I can even show you what that'll look like if we do it to our walls, but believe me when I tell you it's bad. Believe me. So yeah, I didn't mean to double-click and escape that, but that's kind of cool. I kind of like the way it's going so far. So you want these to be single-sided platforms. Now, if we play our level, of course, it's not going to do anything. We're just going to go straight through them. It's not even platforms. It's like background. Whoa, these things are crazy. Is the blue bigger than the green? No. Why does it look bigger? Anyway. We've got a new platform type, so we go into our game, and we could even do the same kind of structure here. We can start breaking this down into structure into folders as well. Interactables, sure. And this one I'm actually not gonna put s's at the end. Generally, it's a bad practice. Just keep it in the singular. Interactable environment and units. You can organize these any way you kind of see fit. Every time you organize them, you have to kind of like go through your code and make sure all the references don't die. Early on, it's not so much of a problem, and it's also not so much of a problem because everything's kind of in the same place. Once we start moving, if we start, the reason why it's not so much of a problem even now is because level, we don't have to do anything for level because level doesn't make any references. We don't parse our level, it's just created all in Flash, so kind of safe there. And it'll inform you that the path isn't the same, so it's auto-generating this unit for us for the package name. That's good. That's what we need. That's an environment, that's an interactable, and this is a unit. I'm going to create one more. Well, no, I'm not. I want to create one more just for something else we're probably going to be doing, so I don't forget what I wanted to call it, but I'm really bad at coming up with these names, so let me just think about it like this. We've got our environment, got our interactable, we've got our coins. Now, our player has reference to all those kind of things. We've got a reference to wall, but you'll notice that it's no longer grayed out. That means it's broken. Now, what that also means is we have to import it. We also no longer have a reference to coin. Actually, we probably don't want to collect players. What that also means is we have to, so we have to re-import it. How we can do that quickly is if we hit Control-Alt-Space, then it'll find anything with the same name and give you its path, and shows you what it's going to look like. And if you're at the end of that, you can hit Enter, and it'll import it up to the top. So coin's been imported, and it also turns gray. We'll do the same thing for wall, and so that auto-imports Control-Alt-Space was the shortcut again. And if we run it, it'll work. It may work. What I broke, I do not know. Oh, yes, I do. So inside of here, we also have to make sure those references are the same as well. So if it's game.wall or game.player, it should be game.unit.player, game.interactable.coin, and game.environment.wall. In our case, we probably didn't have to do this. It's probably a good thing to show anyway, but organized code is your friend. So we have to add one more type. We're gonna have to. So if we hit Control Enter, it's working. It better work. There we go. Everything's back. Perfect. Whoa. Still don't collide that. That tripped me out a little bit. I was expecting collide with that, but we still haven't programmed the functionality. So let's just say we'll call this one single. Single-sided platform. I'm going to use a short form for it. What does it extend? You should already know this. Game object. It has to. We have to be able to interact with it. And this one can be final. We're not going to extend it, I don't think. And we do want to generate a constructor function matching our base, so it just adds the super for us. What are we going to do with it? Well, absolutely nothing. But what it will mean is that inside of our player, we want to collide with it. But we only want to collide with it at a very specific case. We only want to collide with it we only want to collide with it if we're falling. If we're going up in the air, we're ascending when we jump, we don't want to collide with it. We don't want to hit the bottom side of it. We only want to collide with it with our feet. What that also means is we have to make a very interesting case for this. We can't just say wall and then put in null or some sort of condition. We have to kind of think smart about this. We want to say var when declare a movement collision list is of type array. Going to be equal to this, so it's always going to collide with this as default. But and then we're going to do our condition to figure out whether or not we're jumping, ascending. So if we're going up in the air, if we're greater than, if we're less than 0, if we're less than 0, we don't want to do anything, but only if we're greater than 0, so we're coming back down, then we want to collide. What do we want to do? We want to push into our array what? A class. What kind of class? We're going to say it's a class of, it's called single. Control Alt space, and then enter to import. Perfect. That's perfect. So we're going to import move collisions dot push, and that's when we'll do our collision test against our single. And then when we do our move by test, we're just going to pass in our variable called move collisions. Wasn't so bad. And so if we test it, it may work. I think there's one more nuance that doesn't quite make sense. Yes, what happens if you're halfway through a tile? Right? You'll kind of stop halfway through it, and I'll show you what I mean. I don't know if I can show it to you exactly, but we'll see if we can get it shown. So if I jump, well, I still collide with the bottom of that, but I can go straight up through the green. Ooh. Still not colliding with it. Oh, right, thank you. You also have to add the reference to it. Game.environment.single. So we run that. Do we get singles in there? Yes, singles are being registered. You can see it on our list down here. And so if I jump, I'll go through the bottom side. And when we start falling down, it immediately throws in our collision, and it teleports us. Actually, I didn't expect that, but it teleports us to the other side because it keeps on moving us until we're no longer colliding. So a fail-safe case for that is before we even get to this stage, check to see if, and we do this right at the beginning. It doesn't matter when we do this. We can do it right before we even do our movement code, or at the end. I don't really care. We could say var is, or inside what? Inside single. You can even call it colliding. Well, is colliding with single. That's a Boolean. I generally don't make it as explicit as this. Could even call it is in single. And how do we test that out? Well, we want to see whether or not we are currently colliding with a single. So like we're currently overlapping. Now, if we are overlapping, we don't want to do this. So we say if it's greater than 0, we're falling, and we're not in a single. Isn't a single is false. Then push single and start doing collision. So only when we head into, and this is a warning, it's not a fail, we should probably fix it up a little bit. I'll show you what we can do to fix that up. But it should still work. So if I jump, and I land on top. Jump and I land on top. I thought I was going to have to show you a crazy example, but no, it's not so bad. So let me show you. If I can show you another example will look like this. If we take these two, and we build them out, so it's an entire huge block of them. Now with our code, what will happen if we collide with them? You should think about it logically. But you can jump up against it. It's a whole block. And we just go straight through them. You have to get it on your up jump. Can't really see us in there, but we are there. How you can also fix a layering issue, if you do have layering issues, is make multiple layers in here. Just say this is my player layer. Paste in place. And lock it. And then just work on your layer 1 and everything else should be behind. When it's generated, I think my player's created last now. So I'm just on top of everything. So I can stand on top, but if I don't quite get it on top, then that's where I end up. I can fall right through it, and I can even jump through it, I think. Even jump through it. It's kind of funny. It just ignores it all. It's like a block that's just ignored because we're always colliding with them. But for the most part, like single-sided platforms, it wasn't so bad. There is another bug I think I noticed, which is that we're plus equaling our jump. So what that also means is that it's not killing our gravity. If we have gravity already being applied, so we started to fall, and we don't jump nearly as high. So if we fall a little bit, now I can, even if we fall, our arc should be about the same. So that isn't so bad. So to fix this little bug over here, that's line 50. And this is just a warning, it's not really a bug. Flash lets you do it, which means it isn't. But it could be better phrased. You can say is in single, what it should be is single, it should be a ternary, does not equal null. So it's like our condition, we just give it a condition. If collide, if it returns a value that is not null, then it is a single. We are inside of a single. If not, then we aren't. So now their warning's gone, and we can do what we normally do. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Well, that was that. What other things did we have to do? Last thing to talk about is, enemy, AI, and camera. So we already have the level update. There are probably some things we can do to optimize it, but for right now that's fine. Let's put in some simple camera logic. And you have to think about camera logic is how things kind of work. And if level is our container, let's just say, if our player is moving around inside of it to here, we locked the player layer. Here we go. To here, we're like, this is where we start, this is where we are now, or this is where we are now. How are we going to move the level so that the player is in the center? What we have to do is if the player is moving in the positive, we have to move it in the negative direction to compensate. So that's the logic behind it. I will show you what that means in code. If we go into the level class, which is not open for some reason, there it is, now it's opened. We want to say player is our object. So we want to get a reference to our player. We'll have to use it a lot, so why not just declare a reference right at the top. So private var player. And we don't know where he is. We don't know what he is. We don't know. There could be multiple players, possibly. But what we want to do is we want to get a reference to our player. And so what we can do, we can do this in, to create a for loop and make it all, I don't know, dynamic and stuff. But to make it more dynamic, instead of creating a for loop here and saying, is game object at list I equal to player, we can actually, until we find one, we can actually do it inside of our game object class so that we can reuse it in the event we ever need it again. And what that means is we're going to say public, this is going to be a static public functions, which means it can be accessed anywhere, unlike the collide function. And what do we want? We want to say get type. It's going to get an object of a specific type. That's going to be a game object. And you can also make different variations of this depending on what you need it for. You can have, you can actually have it return a list of all the things theoretically colliding. But in this case, I don't think that's going to work out. So it makes it a lot more complex. So why even bother? What's the type? The type is going to be taking a type, class type. Class. These are also like it's a class type list. These are all class type lists as well. That's why I kind of just wanted to call this one type, but class type is probably a little bit more. Actually, I'm just going to call it type. We know it's a type of class because it uses this colon, and we say that we're expecting a class in. So how does it work? We're going to go through a for loop, exactly as we expect it. Go through a list, and I'm going to go through the opposite direction because it's a little bit faster from what I understand. Length minus 1 was greater than or equal to 0. Minus minus. What are we going to do? If you should know how to do this. You should actually give it a try yourself so you can figure it out before me. If list at I is $type, then return list at I. And we could even store it as a variable, but you know what? We only ever use it twice, so the cost isn't high enough to to make it worth it. If we don't find anything, return null, like we're used to. And there we go. We have a class, a function, a static function. That means we can just call it on a game object class that returns a type. We can call it from anywhere, even outside of game objects. This is pretty powerful because that means in here we can say if player is equal to null, or alternatively you can write it like this: there isn't a player, then player is equal to get game object dot get type, right? And what's our type? We're looking for a player object. Perfect. And so we'll keep on trying to get a player as long as there isn't one. And this is also pretty cool. Maybe two interesting things. If your player dies, probably won't. But if you load a level without a player, it'll keep on looking for a player. So there is one. And then later on when we do our cam logic, we can just make sure that there is a player because our camera is going to revolve around our player. That's why we need him. So what do we want to do with our player? We want to say, well, our X location. So our level's X location is going to be the opposite of our player plus our current X. Yeah, let's just see if this works. We're going to try getting it working for one axis first. Whoa, oh, player.x. If you're looking at that and wondering, you were probably right. Coercion of type Oh, to type player. Right, so this also goes into casting, right? We're returning a game object, but we don't know if it is a player, so we can say, trust me, it's a player. This is casting, and this has to be done in a variety of cases, but essentially what we do is it knows that game object, every player is a game object, but not every game object is a player. That work? Yes, exactly. Because we've got game objects that are, singles or coins and stuff. So this only guarantees that we're returning a game object. There's no guarantee that we're actually returning a player. So we have to tell it to trust us that it is a player. So cast it as a player, and if it works, it'll return an object. If it doesn't work, it'll return null. It says, well, you tried casting a wall as a player, or who knows what. So forget it. In some languages, it actually allows you to define your own logic for how casting will work. So if you try casting, from int to string or string to int, it could actually do some parsing for you and get you to all dynamically to work, hold hands and be friends. But that doesn't always work. So it's player.x. Yeah, that wasn't going to work. Oh, go away. Go away. Okay, let's do the logic. It's player location. We want to be in the opposite location of the player. And we also want to... We don't want to add our x direction. Actually, let's see this. We just want to be in the opposite direction of the player. Alright, so there we are. Yes, sorry, that was used for another set of logic. So you see we're colliding with the wall a little bit, and we're being pushed out of it. So every time we're getting a little closer, and then it kind of pushes us out. That's all right. We can fix it a little bit too. That is a little bit of a bug. I don't like that glitch look where it's. I don't know if you can even see it, but it's kind of jittering on the edge. And the other thing is we're kind of locked to our edge. So this is camera logic. It's following our player, but it's kind of locked to our player. That's no fun. Now, depending on the type of game you're making, that could kind of work. And I think my player teleported through the edge because of, I think it's camera logic. Yeah, that's a camera glitch, I'm pretty sure. So I'm gonna we'll fix the camera glitch in a little bit, but right now let's try to center it. So we're gonna say plus stage width. So the width of our world times 0.5. And run it again. And now we're in the center. So that wasn't so bad. But you know what? It locks. It locks quite a bit. And locking isn't nearly as fun. You can still notice that glitch, or it just teleports us through the edge. That's no fun either. So the glitch is caused because it's using fractions, as far as I can tell. So to mitigate the fractions, we can floor the value. So is equal to math.floor x. And this is the way we've seen us, round down. There is also another way. That's a bitwise operator. That'll also cut off all the decimal places. Works completely differently, but in our case, it works all right. I'm using it both to show you, and the other side of it is to not only show you, but make you aware of its functionality, because I'm going to use it. I usually use it because it's faster, but math.floor works just as well. Quite a bit more expensive. So now there should be, we hit the edge and it's solid. Even though we're kind of like glitching in and out, it's perfect. And we can't go through it, which is perfect too. But let's make this a little bit more fluid, so there's an acceleration to it. Not that there really will be much of one, but it doesn't hurt. So let's make this plus equals x. I don't know what the signs are for this. I have to think it through, but times by, I don't know, 0.1. Does this even work? No. Signs are all wrong. So this still has to be positive. This one has to be negative, I think. Oh, no. Did that work? Let's see. Yeah, I think this has to be -2. So that didn't work either. Let's make you positive. You positive, you negative. Okay, let's not change so many values. That's our delta. This is where we're currently at. And that is where we want to be. Oh, that was gone before I even said hello. Let's make this a negative. Why am I offset in the wrong direction? Oh, maybe it's this. These go at each other and then maybe this one's a positive? Hold on. Maybe these are going in the brackets. I think these go in the brackets. This one's a negative, and this one is going to be something like that. Oh, that wasn't so bad. And we can see that now it kind of tweens to it. So let's stuff through the logic a little bit. I don't know, I usually fiddle with my camera logic, I never really think about it, but delta, we want to get in the opposite direction, so similar to how I explained it before. X, because we want to figure out the difference of what our X currently is at. We want to subtract it against our target. This is our target. Then our stage, we want to offset it all by our stage, so we're focusing halfway into the center of the screen. And speed, this is our camera speed. We multiply it by our camera speed, so I'm going to create a var for that. Maybe here we make a const for it. Call it camera speed. And we'll make this one a number, because you can just like tweak it and you can see what it does. It's so much fun. There we go. And so we run it, works the same way. And we slow down, we stop, and it kind of catches up. Slow down, stop, it catches up. Stop, catches up. That's not bad. What else we got? Do the same thing for Y. This is stage height. So it's the center of the screen and the height, and you can offset it any way you want. And round down for the Y as well. Kill that, not going to use it. And now we've got a basic camera. We can jump and we get all our nice camera logic code and following, and we have all our camera animation stuff. So that worked out all right. I think there's one last thing we want to talk about. Oh, simple AI. I did want to talk about simple enemy AI, but we're over the hour, so we'll talk about it. Hopefully we'll talk about it next time.